How are you doing, watchers? Good evening. Thank you so much for joining in on another episode. It's a very cozy lighting. I like this. Um, Today's video is going to be a segment from my stream, and I did not edit any of it because I wanted you to see the raw moments as they unfolded. But it's going to be about a little bit of discovery and two topics that I see going on in the Halo community that I wanted to dive into a little bit more and explore. Um, I came across these realizations through my own gameplay and through years of exploring other video games, and also being someone who's been here through the beginning of Halo to watching it be purchased by Microsoft and watch the industry try to incorporate things like radar and sprint to try and please the gamers around the world. And also, I know that developers mean well. I don't want this video to be taken in any harsh way. The main reason that I'm even producing it is because I am a believer of truth, and I want the truth to really be out there. And if there are things to be talked about on this topic, I'd like to discuss it rather than shy away and act like it's not really there. So hopefully you're able to see that and approach this. If you're not willing to listen with an open mind, then don't worry about it. This video is not really for you. But if you're someone that really likes to break down videos and likes to listen to the strategy and things that I've talked about over the years, I think you'll enjoy this one. There was one other topic that I wanted to cover. I don't know. I'm just going to get into it. The beginning is slightly slow because it's just so authentic. It's like literally just from the stream, how it unfolded, and to watch it all. Um, but I'll just tell you the topics are about map structure and whether sprint is healthy or hurtful for the game. To give you just a quick take, I think it's a double-edged sword that no players should ever wield, because when it's great, it's really in your favor, and when it's not, it's extremely against your favor. And it really takes the magical element of what Halo was away from the game. And I believe that on any first-person shooter, any competitive. I'm not a fan of third-person shooters because a lot of third-person shooters become camera manipulation. I'm not a fan of radar or tracker inside of games. They cause uh, inorganic kill times and weird situations where you have a player running up behind you and you're trying to get the kill in front of you, and that person knows the situation you're in, so they're like twisting the scenario rather than playing it out organically how they would if they were in the moment themselves. And finally, the topic that you're going to see here is discusses sprint, and it talks about how the options that you have and the way that it can exaggerate a situation to either be extremely in your favor or extremely outside of your favor. And it's really fascinating. First off, thank you so much for listening this long in the video. I know in today's world with TikTok and stuff, some people have already tuned out by now. But if you're someone who's genuinely interested in this conversation, I appreciate you a lot, and I'm really glad you're here. Um, I'm not going to edit this. I like doing stuff just raw, one take, and I apologize if you feel like it takes up a portion of your time. Maybe one day I'll have someone that'll edit things for me, but I want to just speak, and I'm not here to think about how can I slice this up to create some story that I want to tell. So I just felt like getting that off my chest before continuing, because I know some people have always kind of pushed me to edit my videos and stuff like that, and I see the purpose, but maybe that's for somebody else. I don't know. Um, there was one other thing. I don't know. We'll just get into it. But if you feel like you are starting to see what I'm talking about or would like to discuss this more, let me know. Today I experimented with a no sprint game mode, no sprint settings, and it was actually really fun. I toyed around with a little bit of getting the movement speed dialed in to what felt good. The maps are a little large, but it felt very healthy compared to what we've been playing, and I think a lot of people don't really realize that yet. Oh, this is the topic I was going to say. Um, I've actually had experience with sprint in games. While I was working at Epic Games, I always say this, and I feel like I always say this, but I never know like if one of these videos is just going to go large and someone doesn't know this. But I did spend time working at Epic Games as a competitive design analyst, and one of the interesting issues that occurred. We were building a MOBA game, and the original design prior to me even being hired there had incorporated Sprint in their model of what they wanted to build. They had built a beautiful map. It was absolutely massive to compensate for the fact that Sprint was involved. And it became so abusive that as you were battling your individual battle, another player from the opponent team or sometimes your team would come flying in from a side lane sprinting, and you're stuck not sprinting. And that topic, the reason why I'm taking time to pause and discuss about it is because a lot of the experiences that I had through that are some of the things that are giving me confidence to speak on what I'm talking about now, plus like 20 years of competitive gaming history altogether. So it's just it's come full circle, and I really would like to give this knowledge back to the public so that you can at least see it for what it is, and rather than hide it underneath, or rather than feel really stressed out on why you can't quite figure this out. And so essentially, one of the things that you're going to see in your Halo games, or maybe this is planting the seed for it, is you're going to realize the effect that Sprint has in a moment, and how um, sometimes it's more of like a mob mentality of where you're trying to hold a player in a battle while your teammate just sprints up close enough to be able to get the kill. Vice versa scenario would be like you shot somebody once and they turn and sprint, and now it's just a weird scenario. So I'm gonna end this video here, and then it's gonna go into what I showed, what I have from the stream. So it's just gonna go right into the clip, and the first few minutes are a little slow because I was thinking about this. I pulled up a tweet. It just was like running in my mind. I'm not someone that wants to make accusations if they're false. I'm also someone that's not afraid to be wrong. But and I'm not here to try and upset a lot of people either. I'm just displaying what I observe, and bringing it to the light. In the past, in a lot of communities, I've been dead on accurate about a lot of things, and sometimes it wasn't what people wanted to hear, and I took a lot of whiplash for it. So I'm somebody who is truthfully emotionally damaged from all that, and I'm trying to avoid that this time around. Um, so if you are going to leave a comment, please leave it respectfully, and I would glad to have a conversation about this. I also, if you're someone who would like to explore some of the settings that I'm toying around with, which primarily include no sprint and a slightly adjusted move speed, I even dropped the gravity down a little bit, and it gives it a nice feel. Feel free to join the Discord. I'll go ahead and I'll pin that as a comment in here. And I'm going to be doing gameplay reviews. I eventually would like to charge for that kind of thing. Right now, I'm just doing them for free. So if you'd like to have your gameplay analyzed, and you'd like to hear what I have to say about the way that you're moving around in Halo Infinite, I'd be glad to at least voice my opinion, and hopefully that helps in some ways. And okay, without further ado, here's the clip from the stream. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Uh, you really enjoy when I explain so much? Yeah, I'm down. I mean, like this is okay. So just the topic and some of the stuff is like discovering it more and more. A lot of it comes from what I'm seeing my teammates doing that are triggering me. in the game, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess I never realized that other people don't see this, or some things just become more obvious to me. But the big one is like you saw in there's two topics. There's really two topics that are just being overlooked. One of them is like uh one of them it has to do. I was just thinking. I was reading my tweet. I don't know if I'm gonna send it. But there was a moment last game where I actually said something to my teammates about like the guy standing on C. I was like, oh, I don't want to spawn C. He not only was he capturing the lowest point in the map, but he caused like two other people of our team to spawn down there. So that's just confirming giving up like the power positioning. Um, but whatever. And the other one is just how the chain reaction element of it. That's always been there, like for Halo, because it takes 4 shots to kill. Like I can go into theater mode and maybe show this a little bit right here. I'm just gonna show it on angles, I guess. Streets is a pretty decent one to be able to like demonstrate this with. I think a lot of people get really messed up on Aquarius, and recharge is a really it is actually can be quite difficult because there's a lot of overlaying angles over each other. But and live fire, I can do a live fire as well. But I think streets gives you the most clear cut visual of it. So um, yeah, thank you, Kalmar. Also, I'm doing coaching stuff like one-on-one coaching and gameplay review. Eventually, I would like to be like compensated for it, but for now, I'm opening up to just if somebody sends me games to be reviewed or whatever, I'm gonna try to get to it. We're just in here for one quick thing. This theater mode is still very new to me in terms of the way it operates, but the whole reason of like let's start on C as a good example. When you're here, this is your visual outlook. This is your pressure. The only spots that you can really apply pressure on are right here. And a lot of people misconceptualize this. They're thinking of themselves. You need to think of yourself as a 4-person unit. You need to think of yourself as a 4-person unit, not you, the individual Halo player. Like, take it to a level where it's like you are a cell in your body, and all of it needs to work together for it to have a functioning body. Like that's kind of the element that is. There's a lot of selfish stuff, or just not thinking large picture. So when you stand here, not only are you going to spawn others in this area, but you don't own any of the map. You own this little room and that line of sight down there. And that's what you own. And anyone else spawning in, what they own, like on their spawn point, this is the line of sight that they have control over. That's their real estate. That's their ownership. And is this room, is this little thing. And when you think, you have C flag, you need 2 points to cap. You're not helping output any pressure to assist on that at all. Now, to flip it, if you're here, you can stop rotations from B. You can influence people coming from leaving out that door. They're trapped in that little box. And there's other elements of things that go on in that. And that's just like I'm just doing this as one small example, but this happens every second, every like millisecond of the game think of it like a flip book. Every millisecond of the game is a new picture. It's just a new standstill shot. Like they talk about your frames, your FPS. Every frame is a standstill photo, and so if you start looking at the game that way, every action that you make, or every action that your teammates make, or every action that your opponents make, influence what that bigger picture looks like for who has more dominating control in the moment. So when you spawn in here, you open up spawns to this area, like underneath me, and this can flesh out things. And now you're able to like look at this. You own from here all the way down to there, is like the real estate that you now possess in your possession. You know what I mean? So it's a drastic difference of the way that it is, and that changes and amplifies every time. When you step to like here, you're controlling this area. You get maybe like some damage in here, or can at least have knowledge if they're moving. But then like you can know from all the way up to here, and they can't. It's just about choking your opponent out slowly, kind of a deal. And so really the goal is to have like something. If you flush it out correctly, like you can really push all the way out here. Now, the thing to flip this is instead of trying to fight up this hill, because think of it as a photo again, like this is a picture, you've taken a step, this is a new photo, new photo, new photo. I mean, look, you have to be careful of here, 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 and like all the spam that comes down the ramp as you go up this area. So anytime that anyone controls C and forces their teammates to spawn on C, you're now forcing them to do this extremely uphill battle. And this happens on like all different maps, all different areas, all like this. You gotta take this into consideration. The other thing is, even if you're playing on keyboard and mouse, you can only aim at one location for per frame. You cannot aim in two different locations at once. It does not matter how fast you think you are responsibly. There is only one moment in time that you're able to pick and choose. That's where my crosshair goes. And in the next moment, you may be able to shift it or move it. And if you're on a keyboard or mouse, you may be able to shift it further, quicker, whatever. But in that moment, if you were to freeze the time period and look, you only get one choice. You get one choice every millisecond or whatever you want to break it down to, but you have to start thinking of it as your one choice in that specific moment. And there's just a lot of moments that happen really fast that start to paint this picture together. And so as you're trying to push up a scenario like this, if you find yourself in this scenario, there are three spots to aim at. You have this large wide area, you have right in the middle there, and then you have the red room. You only get to pick one of those and shoot one bullet in, like, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to shoot, you get one choice and you get to shoot one time. Let's just like put it like that. Just for the sake of understanding, you don't really, how are you going to apply pressure enough to get a kill? It takes 4 shots to get the kill. The second that you hit any of these targets, they have the option to turn, run, include, and like now utilize sprint and push and leave you in the dust. You're not going to want to sprint because you don't know where anyone else is. You have no visual line of sight of what's going on. There could be a player right here, and the second that you decide to sprint, they've caught you sprinting. So sprinting is a double-edged sword. I don't like it. I think it needs to go, and this is going to really hit the Halo community pretty hard, man, because I think it's going to suck if you played these maps with no sprint, because they went ahead and developed the whole entire game around including sprint, because so many people are like, well, I want sprint, I want sprint. They don't really realize what sprint is doing. So just take those two things into consideration. Both of those topics can be dove into way deeper to kind of essentially just create another visual explanation for you if it helps. But I touched base on exactly what's going on, and if you're able to grasp that little bit of nugget of information, start to form it in your head, and you can, like, I gave you the seed. You can now plant it and water it and learn and do all that. But that is it. And like, this is a really strong angle, you know. Granted, you only get to pick, you know, like if you're taking the moment thing, but what you do have, and this is where how we expand on that thought a little bit more, right? So yeah, let's go back to where you only get to pick one choice in your scenario, and granted, there's quite a bit of openings here, but now we go to choice number 2, and that's where you start to see the picture evolve, and that's why everything here is really like a chain reaction, because the kill time is not instantaneous. It's not like boom, dead. It's like you have to hit them 4 times. So if you begin to take pressure, and this is the angle that you're playing off of, doesn't really matter where the pressure is coming from, your escape routes are healthy. You back down, you can just create more protection, you have more open space, you can reassess, and when you disappear from over there and then reappear over here, you can act as almost 2 players. You can utilize sprint to enhance that movement and really like up the time that you could be there. And this is another reason why I'm not a huge fan of sprint, is because it messes with an aggressing player pushing from the low ground in this scenario to it gives that player almost nothing to like. There's very little to grab onto knowledge-wise. If this was a no sprint environment, this player rotating, they would have an X set amount of time that it takes for them to rotate. With sprint involved, they can sprint halfway. They can sprint all the way. They can sprint. They don't have to sprint at all. They can stay where they were. It takes a scenario where there's like, I don't know, maybe a few different options, and it multiplies that times 2 or 3, to where the player that's pushing on aggression actually is just no longer really playing on probability and more so playing on chance. And even though the sprint speed is not that much different, it's enough to impact the one was enough for them to incorporate it in the game and call it sprint. So that says something. And two, it's enough to adjust the timing window of when a player will appear. And those are just. I just wanted to come in here and do this quick video of this, and a lot of what I just said is really just planting seeds for you to start opening up the way that you navigate on the map. And